Hey, I'm Solomon Jaye, and welcome to Beyond Mediocre, where I get to sit and talk with creative professionals about what they are doing to push beyond mediocre. Now, before we get into it, greatly appreciate it if you can click subscribe to show support for shows like these, and click the notification bell to stay in the loop and keep updated on new episodes. Now, today we have a very, very special, incredibly talented singer and guitarist, Mr. David Posso.
Yes, sir. I'm in the building. What's up, man?
Welcome, man. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, bro.
Absolutely.
We've been working to make this happen, so it's like, here we are, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, I met David years ago, and first time I heard him, I was like, yep, this dude is talented. And he was actually the first person I saw playing a Martin Ep.5, and I heard him playing it at a set, and I was like, I need this guitar. I need this.
Yeah.
And that is now the guitar I own, which
is
sitting over there.
We'll bring him into the shot later on.
Yeah, she has seen many a wonderful show, and
I know, right? Dude, mine, I'll tell a story later. I'll tell it now. I got stepped on in 2018. I was at a gig. It was a big life lesson that I learned. Dude. And I haven't really told the story to many people at all. So, like, this is the first time I really relate exactly what happened. But I'll keep it in a minute. I left it. They were going to put a curtain or a tablecloth on the table. We were 5 minutes before a gig, so I had the guitar right in the center of the table, which is the safest place it could be. They were putting the tablecloth on, so I put it beside me. And then at that moment, one of the members of our band was backpedaling and walking and stepped right on it and right through the front here, man. Right through here. And I have epic pictures that are... Dude, imagine if that happened to your guitar, right? And we were 5 minutes before showtime. It was really, really, really rough. But long story short, I owned up to my mistake and I got it fixed. And it took a little bit of effort in finding the right guy, but his name's Ken Blount. He's in Sebring, Florida, and he's Martin's only certified repair.
Oh, really?
In the state of Florida. And
I might need to get that detail from you.
Oh yeah, dude, for sure. Yeah, he's amazing, and he's like a great a father figure kind of guy, and he's just so patient. And he fixed my baby, man.
Oh man,
for half of what we thought it was gonna cost. So I was like,
that's gotta feel like a miracle,
bro. It was, yeah. But first off, it was quoted.
These aren't cheap.
Well, tell you what, it was quoted at $1,600 to fix it, and they're worth $1,450, $1,412, depending on the wood that you get. On top of that, I bought mine for $650 on Craigslist, new. It was a great deal. It was like a God gift, right? So for me, it was like life was falling apart when that happened.
Man.
And it was a big lesson, and I actually put it in the case for a year and a half because I couldn't afford that $1,600, and I was so down on myself. Life was falling apart. I was hitting rock bottom. It was a really interesting period of my time. But I finally got around to fixing it back at the beginning of 2020 last year. So it was just this rededication to my art, to my craft, to myself, honoring myself, the journey, being reverent with the gifts that I've received and that I've earned over work, bro. Over working so hard over so many years. So it's beautiful. Here we are, full circle, and she sounds just as good, man. And I'm just grateful because there's so many lessons on that guitar, so many songs I've written, so many places it's been because I took it with me when I worked on the cruise ship. And it traveled 55 different cities, 30 different countries with me over the course of 8 months. So yeah, man. Here we are.
That's quite a bit how this one has been for me. And a similar story, honestly. I'm pointing, saying this one, and no one can see what's happening there.
Your baby
That's
Fender.
my baby Strat over here. And that one I've ended up taking all over the place. And it was one that I got for, the value of it is a lot more than I got it for. I got it for right around $300.
Yeah, and
in Santa Barbara. It was one of two guitars that I purchased. One I don't have anymore, an old acoustic I don't have anymore, but both of them I got for dirt cheap. Because some guy was like, I just don't have time for music in my life anymore.
Right.
And I was like, so you're just giving away guitars?
Exactly. I had saved up $1,400 to go to Sam Ash and buy this guitar.
Yeah.
And right before I went, I was like, let me see if I find Martin GP-CPA-4 in Craigslist.
Yeah.
One listing, $650, and I went to him.
Man.
I was like, hey, is this still available? I'll meet you right now. We met up, and same thing. We've been sitting in his closet for years, and he was like, I just wanted to go to a good home. I don't have time to play it. I don't play it all, so, And it's
beautiful.
That's those little moments where God gives you those little blessings, those gifts of you know what, this is your journey. This is the path that you're on. This is something I'm going to give you to help you accomplish that goal. And so that's why I also learned reverence too, man. Respecting that. and sticking with it, you know?
Yeah.
And giving it your best that you can and being 100% on board as best you can. Speaking of being beyond mediocre, I'm not saying that that's where I've been my whole career, but I'm saying I've learned that that's the opportunity that we have as artists, as creators, as musicians, to express ourselves to the best of our ability with whatever we have at the time. We don't need the $40 million studio to make it happen.
Exactly.
You need
and
an
that's
iPhone.
where the evolution, that is where the evolution happens creatively.
Right.
You know, it's
right.
Especially when whenever I'm teaching, especially teaching groups and things like that, but in particular guitar, and talking to people about that kind of a thing. And they're like, oh, what guitar should I get my kid? Or what instrument should I get, you know, so-and-so? Right. Even if it's an adult, I always say 100% of the time, get the cheapest thing. You can be a millionaire. You can be a bajillionaire, whatever the case. How much money you have in your account, get the cheapest thing you can find. Because if you stick with that cheap thing, you know you're ready to jump to the next level. If you find yourself pouring enough into it and saying, you know what, I need to step this up. You've
outgrown the resource that you have, and it's time to get something that's actually going to match what you're putting in.
And if you buy something right out of the gate that always intimidates you, you will find yourself crippled by the instrument.
Yeah, like a $6,000 guitar that you don't even want to take out of the case because you don't want to scratch it.
Yeah, it's like, well, I don't even know how to play a C chord.
Right.
So why would I grab this thing? It becomes a scary monster. Mm-hmm. And I've watched so many people not play very expensive instruments that they buy. It's the strangest thing.
And I think another phenomenon is like buying something in hopes that it'll make you a good musician or a good creator. You know, buying, before I make videos, I need to have a $5,000 computer and this kind of gear, you know what I mean? And like this camera. I learned over the course of my life and in my own experiences, I used to do that. I'd buy the gear hoping it would make me the person I wanted to be. When it's not at all how it works.
Yeah, man.
You know, you do more with a rock and resourceful mindset than you do with a $50 million setup and being like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
and
awesome lessons.
Not to ride that for too long, but it's the same as this, I have this Line 6 Pod Go over here as my multi-effects pedal that I've been using for, I guess, a bit over a year now, something like that.
Yeah.
But I really like this thing. It's actually the first multi-effects pedal that I've ever purchased because I pretty exclusively, if I was going out to do anything that involved electric guitar, me having to use multiple effects, I just had one verb pedal, I had a tube screamer, and that was it. I would have the delay, or the whatever on my verb pedal, and this has a couple of settings, so I would crank it to the bit more distorted setting, and that was it. If I needed a little extra punch, boom, we're done. We're done. The rest was the amp, and I just did my blues style thing.
Yeah.
And finally, after digging a little deeper, I was like, you know what? I need something. And I had tons of people trying to talk me into getting the Helix.
Oh, yeah.
And that thing, the price of it, I'm like, see, if I was Van Halen or Steve Vai,
or you were going to use the 4,000 settings that it has and the 20,000 combination possibilities that you're going to sit there for 12 hours each day figuring it out.
Yes.
Then it makes sense.
Exactly. Then it makes sense.
And if you're capped by the gear you have, then if that's the next step, and then you know.
And I have put I've built a lot of my own little effects into here, and especially I've built some print stuff into here, like I got my Purple Rain settings, all this kind of thing. But it does the job. Beyond that, I'm still a singer. I'm still a dancer. I'm still all of those things, and it gives me what I need. And right now, I have yet to outgrow this, and I'm also not intimidated by it.
Right.
I
think that's one of the most beautiful myths we can dispel for each other as creators. Is like, stop fooling ourselves into thinking we need more to get started. Like we need the newest guitar, we need the newest computer, we need the newest camera, we need the newest phone, or else I can't record videos. I think it's all false.
Yeah.
And it's, at some point in time, it becomes true. You do need something to level up. If you've been matching the growth and you've reached the ceiling with what you're using, then the time has come. But when you're getting started, or, use what you have, man.
Yeah.
Like, here we are, making really cool stuff.
Yeah.
It's a great setup.
Yeah, it's great. And I mean, honestly, everything that I have here, it's funny. I was saying to my wife recently, I'm like, you know what? I'm looking around at the stuff I have here, and it's all stuff that I bought, with the exception of these lights here, one piece at a time. And one day I just realized, wow, I bought all of these things for very specific things, and I ended up using them for a year or two for whatever purpose.
You got some
and then
gear,
I needed something else for this other thing, and it needed something else for this. And then I look at it, and over a decade, I've acquired all the things here that I can use to, make this kind of thing happen.
Yeah.
This is like a decade of buying things for specific events, little by little.
That's awesome.
Even the wireless transmitters I have.
That's a smart way to do it,
Yeah.
Piece by piece. Don't go, okay, I need to fully stock my studio.
Exactly. If I had bought all of this stuff at once, I wouldn't have used a third of it.
And part of growing as a creator and a musician and whatever other artistic expression is that resourceful aspect of your creativity, of the human spirit. Like, you can make a lot with what you have.
Yeah.
But if you fool yourself into thinking you can't, you're hindering your own creative ability, because you're limiting one of the most powerful aspects of our human ability, of our human condition, which is being resourceful and being creative with sticks and stones.
Absolutely. Exactly. Exactly. Keeping it easy.
We went deep. All right, let's go. We're about 10 minutes in now, talking to heebie-jeebies.
So I want to know, how did you get into music in the first place?
I love this story. I'm so grateful and fortunate to have come from the family that raised me. My mom and dad are both musicians. I don't think you know this story. Probably not. Yeah, so this is cool, yeah. So my mom and dad became musicians on their own in Colombia. My mom was what we did when we were 14, 15, 16. She'd sing in the talent shows at school, and she told her parents that she wanted to learn how to play guitar, and so I think she might have even raised the money to buy her own guitar, and she loved it, and she did it, and she played at the school talent shows. People would make fun of her for doing it. Crazy, right? Yeah. But you know what it is, man? It's part of the growing pains. But she came good enough where people started hiring her for weddings and for birthdays and things like that. And so about 2 hours away from her in a different city, that was in Cali. And my dad, same thing. He grew up in that school where he learned how to play himself. He taught himself, and eventually he became a gigging musician, and he would walk around and do serenades for people at balconies, like very traditional Latin heritage kind of deal stuff, the romantic stuff we did back in the day.
Yeah.
Earning the right to love somebody. And so they met at a wedding, and he was a sub, and she was trying to push him out of it, and because they didn't, they're a little jealous of him, but he had a beautiful voice, and they ended up falling in love. And so
that's a movie.
Right. But the movie's got a twist. And so, right.
Then they had me.
They moved to the United States, and my mom, she arrived first. My dad stayed behind working, and she arrived with $200, 3 dresses. She was pregnant with my sister and her guitar, and starting from scratch, right? And so when my dad came over, they were able to sustain themselves through music. In Pennsylvania, they would do musical festivals and stuff like that. And then my sister and I were born, and they had a little Latin band that would play the covers of very traditional Latin American music, beautiful music. That's the music that we were raised on.
Tanto tiempo disfrutamos.
Eso, yeah, exactly, yeah. And some amazing songs. So my sister and I grew up back when we were children, listening to my mom and dad rehearse in the living room, and we'd fall asleep to them rehearsing, and then eventually we became of age where we were singing, and I started playing the bongos, and my parents put us into piano lessons at the age of 5 and 6, and that's where we just grew up from, man.
Jeez, so, I didn't know all that.
Right. So from a combination of living it with them, and we'd carry the gear to gigs, and we'd load in for them, and we'd sit and watch them, and then we became of age, and we could contribute to the band to a point where I learned how to play the guitar, and my sister played the flute, and I played the saxophone, and she played the piano, and we added these elements to the band. And I learned guitar when I was 15. It was my last instrument that I mastered and that I've learned. In high school, a great friend of mine just invited me to start playing, and he'd carry his guitar around, and I fell in love with it. And it was life-changing. And around that time, 12, 13, 14, I started finding out I could sing, but I was super shy.
Yeah.
So when I was 15, 16, I couldn't sing in front of people. I was scared. Dude. You know how it is. You create this monster of what happens? You know, they're going to judge my self-worth. It's a very vulnerable expression. But fortunately, I had good friends and good mentors that kind of like pushed me to learn and to allow myself to be vulnerable and start singing in front of people. And then I started learning enough songs on the guitar where my high school hired me for a few like shows, and I did a talent show. And I became a DJ to sustain myself. My parents got a divorce.
Oh, geez.
So that's
DJ,
like the twist.
DJ.
I know, right? That's where. So one of the beautiful things is my parents. Oh, dude, just takes a little lessons, right? Just a couple lessons. One of the beautiful things that our parents instilled in us is entrepreneurship. Instead of going to get a 9-to-5 job, they were like, "Why don't you teach music lessons? Because you know how to play the guitar, you know how to play the piano, you know how to play the saxophone. Why don't you teach this to people?" And that's where I started. $50 an hour, charging $30, $40 an hour when I was 17. And then I started DJing on the iPod. And I was me and a really close group of friends in high school. We were badass at just flipping through the iPod. And just like, you know, the song's gonna end. What song's? And we became really good at it to the point where I outgrew my ability, and I had to buy a DJ controller. And the story goes, one day I was walking out of the house with one of the Mackie speakers and the iPod and the little mixer on the way to DJ one of my friend's party for free. And my mom was like, "Where do you think you're going with that?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm going to go DJ this friend's party." And she's like, "Not unless you charge them." And I was like, "What do you mean? Why would I do that?" And she's like, "No, you have value. You gotta start charging for your services." Dang. And I died inside. She's like, "Call them up and tell them, $50 if they want your DJ services. If not, then you don't take it." And I was like, I called them. They were like, "No, it's cool. We got it." And she's like, "Look, now you value your time, and you value your talent. And if people say no, it's okay. But now you get to go to the party and just have fun instead of having to work the whole time." And I was like, "True." And that thanks to my mom.
That's a legit point.
Word got around. I got a DJ controller. I did my first Sweet 16 for $150. And then from then on, I started charging $400 for private events, $350 from the age of 17. So when we met each other at the age of 19 at Maximum, I was DJing. And that's how I was making my monies. And that's where I founded my company, Lavos Entertainment. And that's like the origin story of my music. But when it comes to an original career and actually singing and performing, what I love to do most, I enjoy DJing, but I love performing and singing. Yeah. Right. It's so much more rewarding for me and in an emotional expression, what it does for me. So when I was 19 at Maximum, I started meeting you guys, Edge Effect. I started meeting Natural Phil and Lewis, my best friend.
Natural Phil,
right,
man.
We'd come up together in this world of being surrounded by Orlando's musicians. Yeah, that was one of the most beautiful experiences that I had and opportunities that I had. That's where I got plugged in, and I started to get to know people. And first, people were like, "Who's this little intern kid who's in the studio?" I remember one of my great friends now, Rafi. Rafi? Yeah, that was Synergy Band. The first time I met him, I was just like an intern at the studio. I wore many hats and I was a jack of all trades and I'd do whatever they needed me to do. Yeah. He was at the studio and I was sitting on the couch like, "Oh, this is really cool." And I think I might have been recording a video. Yeah. And he goes to Danny, he goes, "Hey man, make sure that he doesn't post that video later on." But here we are 7 years later. He was the first guy to give me an opportunity in a top 40 band, and I worked with him. I've been working with him for the last 7 years. And I was the lead singer with his band for 5 years. So, and then just doing solo gigs and just getting to know booking agents and different opportunities. And one of the most pivotal opportunities that I received, I think, was the cruise ship opportunity. Yeah. As a solo musician doing a contract, which is life-changing.
Okay, so were you on as a
like contracted every night?
That
I wasn't a special act.
Is a gig that you talk about reinforcing some skill set.
Oh, bro.
That's like the top 40 gig for a singer. Like you learned
everything. You learn because you're practicing every night. Yeah. And that is where, thank God, I had bought a looper pedal like 2 years before I went on the cruise ship. And I pulled it out of the box and tried it, and I was like, "This is too hard." I put it in for like a year and a half. But when I got this contract deal, I was like, "Well, I might as well take this thing." And so I did. Yeah. And I became very well versed and very comfortable with my looper pedal setup. And it changed the game for me. And it took me to the next level, right? Yeah. But it was beautiful because I started that contract. I didn't really know what I was doing. By the time I was 3 months in, bro, not even looking at the looper pedal, changing these things, people would be like, "How are you doing that?" And I'm like, "Well, I practiced."
Yeah.
Every night for 3 to 4 hours for 6 months.
Yeah. I mean, it's great.
It's crazy.
Great practice. Like my my wife, she thinks it's crazy the idea of me being able to pop in and shift between, like have somebody call out a song and just to be able to sing it from start to finish.
Yeah.
And I've told this story a couple times in the last couple months, but that started with this company in New York, Hank Lane. And when I moved out to New York for the first time, it was do or die, basically. And I went and I auditioned for this gig.
Dang.
And because I don't know if you know Stephanie Kababe.
No.
Okay, but she was like, yeah, the company that I work for, they have a couple of bands that are looking for male singers, so on and so forth.
Yeah, do or die, baby.
Yeah. I was like, okay, she was like, I'll send you the song list of the stuff that guys do. And she sent me this list of like 100 top 40 songs, and I was like, I don't know half of this stuff. And so over a period of a few weeks,
before you knowing all those songs.
Yeah. Wow. And so over the course of a few weeks, I slugged it out hours a day, memorizing every single one of those songs.
God bless you.
And then it got to audition time, and I sang a couple of songs. Funnily enough, one of them was one of the songs that we're playing through today.
Oh, yeah?
And they were like, all right, cool. We like your voice. We like the style and everything. Do you rap? And I was like, huh? Do I what?
No!
They were like, do you rap? I was like, is it the difference between me getting this gig and not getting this gig? They were like, could be. I was like, then yes, I rap. And so I started learning that stuff too. And when I got on those gigs for the first time, you talk about wanting to have a nervous breakdown.
Wow.
Like I would have, the band leader, we're in the middle of one song. And then, I mean, literally talking about we're in the last chorus. Mm-hmm. And then he'll look at me and flip me off. And I'm like, why is he mad? And so fortunately at the time they had a cover, like in case Solomon couldn't hack it.
Yeah.
And so they had this guy cover, and all of a sudden they started bum 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 bum. It was CeeLo F.U.
Yeah, I forgot you.
That was his
signal
to tell me.
I love it.
I don't know how to process this. Why and it would happen just that fast.
That's hilarious.
But after working with that company off and on for like 3, 4, 5 years, I mean, you can give me a pop song right now that I've never heard of and say, we need you to perform it tomorrow at this event. I'm like, all right.
That's what I do.
Do we get rehearsal? No. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Like,
is it going to be done like the record?
Yeah, it's just like the record.
Okay.
It's like, well, we're going to change 1 or 2 things. We'll play through it once before the event. Okay.
Yeah. Perfect.
It's like, yeah, that's fine.
I think that's awesome because sometimes people wonder, like, here we are, however many years into our career, and people are like, how the heck do you know 500 plus songs memorized?
Yeah.
How do you know 1,200 songs on the spot, like you could play them? And it's like, well, it didn't happen overnight. Like my first Synergy gig where I got called for a top 40 gig, I remember I had a trip booked to Boston. And I was so excited because I've never been to Boston. And Rafi called me and he said, hey man, I need a sub last minute. Are you available for Blue Martini? And I was the best day of my life. And I called and I canceled the conference and I canceled my flight to Boston.
Wow.
Just so I could go do this gig. And sure enough, they gave me the list and I was like, no diggity, what the heck is that? Don't Stop Believing. I don't think I know that song.
Yeah.
And that was that. Sitting down, learning, memorizing, and Rafi has a no lyric policy on stage, right? No reading lyrics. So that's how I started. And here we are now,
Rule. That is that no lyric rule. And I own the one band that I ended up working with regularly in New York. That was the one band in particular that had that rule. There were a lot of other bands who were like, yeah, it's totally fine. And this particular band leader, he wanted you to have the lyrics memorized as much as possible, and I stick with that today. I hate, even if it's something that I just had to.
Don't come to any of my acoustic gigs.
Well, no.
I
mean, it's one thing when you have like you and Danny Allen and guys have to sit down and slug out 3+ hours of music just on the fly and taking requests and that kind of stuff. That's a whole different ball of wax. But if I got to show up and I'm just playing one song and I got the request the day before, I'm going to find time to memorize the one song.
You inspired me with that because I remember reading a post that you did some years ago that just said, hey, like this is the value of memorizing. And the artist came and they asked you if you could do the song and you're like, oh yeah, I know that song because you had taken the time to memorize it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You inspired me on that
a couple
one.
crazy moments like that.
Right.
There was the Boyd Tinsley. I can't believe I remember the name. Is the violin player was the violin player for Dave Matthews Band for a long while.
Oh, yeah.
And there was this crazy event.
The dude with the dreads?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it was him, and for some reason, like, was Dina Martin at this event too? I think Dina Martin, Dean Martin's daughter, she was at this event, and there were a couple of other folks there. But they requested that Boyd Tinsley do the Ants Marching song.
Yeah.
And I memorized the song beforehand.
That's amazing.
And so they wanted it to be like a whole big thing. Yeah. And I was like, if I hadn't memorized it, I wouldn't have been able to go down and jam and
at that level.
I'd have had to stay back.
At the level where you're with one of the original members of the band that played it.
Yeah.
Wow, dude.
And I actually forgot about that until just now.
That
was my,
I remember
Dave Matthews without Dave Matthews being there.
That's awesome. That happened with me. The next level that I took in my career is this band called Bill Hopkins Rockin' Orchestra. Great friends of mine, Bill and T. They're based in California, and they do international corporate gigs, which is a really nice step up, right? From doing local stuff to being able to be flown places and like hotels and all this really nice behind the scenes, like living the life kind of deal. And the same thing happened to me, but it was the same day of the gig, and I thought of you. I was like, and I'm like, these people are paying me to fly here, to perform here. They're paying me to stay here. And like, so I have to bring that level of professionalism and expectation. So the owner of the band called me 2 hours before the gig. Hey man, you ever heard of the song by Van Morrison called Into the Mystic? And I was like, nope. And he's like, I think you sound great on it. You think you could do it for tonight? And I was like, yup.
Those are game-changing moments. You evolve in those moments.
You got to take it there.
Yeah.
Or else you could always say, no, you could fall into the insecurities and limitations. But I was like, man, this is who I am, and this is what I do, and this is what I'm paid to do, and this is what people expect of me, and I love to expect that of myself. Raising the bar for yourself. And sure enough, I went out there, and I didn't necessarily get the song perfect because there's a couple little riddles in the middle, and you're like, ha. And it's funny. You know Rob Herbert?
Yeah.
He's the drummer in that band. And I think I said one of the lyrics like I fuddled a word like really bad. And he just kind of totes and jokes with me to this day on it. But one of the opportunities that we have with that band is we back up celebrity acts. And one of the people that we did was Macklemore.
Oh.
And you know the song Can't Hold Us.
Oh, yeah.
And Thrift Shop. So Thrift Shop is a song I started learning when I was like 19. Right, exactly. So this is it, right? Macklemore didn't know if he wanted to perform with us or not because he didn't want to play with a band that was chumpy. We ain't chumpy, but he didn't know. Right. So I sound checked the song for him. And the rest of the 12-piece band. And so he had his manager come out and video record it. And then like he watched it and was like, oh, cool, the band's smashing. Like, yeah. And then like 4 minutes before he comes up on stage, we're on the side of the stage, we're about to go on. And he looks at me, he's like, hey man, if I forget a couple lyrics, do you got me? And I was like, yeah, hell yeah, bro. I got you, bro. If you need help, just look at me. I'll, you know. And he was like, cool. That was one of the coolest moments of my career. Wow, and he went on and slayed the song. He didn't need any help. But, you know, just knowing that you're prepared.
I mean, that kind of acknowledgement of like, you are legit. Like, whether I need you or not, this is my way of saying, I trust you to have my back.
Right.
It was a really big deal.
Beautiful moment for me. And I was, you know, Macklemore, I look up to him and the songs they did and getting to perform with him on stage and just him asking me, hey man, just in case I forget some of the lyrics, do you got my back? I was like, hell yeah, dude. Yeah. So I was like, give me a second. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
So that's the long story of where I'm at.
I mean,
this is a 2-minute nutshell.
Hey, we have covered some good stuff, man.
And we haven't even covered the original side of it all.
Oh yeah.
But
where can people find you?
David Posso Music is the best place to find me. If you go to davidposso.com, Posso, like posse, but with an O at the end. Mm-hmm. David Posso or David Posso Music on my Instagram, and that's the best place to find me. I'm going to be releasing a lot of really cool new stuff. So for me, the evolution is to go from top 40 musician to original musician, creating your own content. Connor, like going back to that Reverence theme of the guitar.
Yeah.
Like if you have this gift and you have this calling and this feeling and you're able to do this with music, it's like honoring it and doing it to the best of your ability so that you can honor whoever gave you this gift, whether it's God, whether it's your parents. For me, it's all of the above. Honoring the people that came before me, who sacrificed what they did for us to be where we are. You know, my parents, my great-grandparents, the people before them I'll never know and meet. But for me, that's what's very important. And so this year is a big year because I'm setting up some nice big goals for myself. I've written, during 2020, I wrote a couple songs and did a couple projects that ended up getting hung back a little because I lost the vision of where I was going with my project.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you lose the vision, when there's no vision, you don't know where you're headed, right? Yeah. The road, you know, you can end up nowhere fast.
Yeah.
And so, but I'm here like
spiral can happen.
Right.
Especially with years like last year.
Yeah, exactly. And I did well for some of the year, and then the other half of the year, I kind of like lost the vision, right? So for me, one of the most important things that I've learned is to be very clear on what you're working on and where you're going. And then you'll get there. If you don't know where you're going, you'll end up anywhere. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to be releasing some new music. I released a single at the end of 2020 called The Art of Letting Go. It's one of the most intimate, vulnerable songs I've ever written, and it's out now on Spotify and everywhere you can find your music played.
I'll add a link to that too.
Yeah, dude, it's awesome, man. And I also, one of the biggest, most monumental projects I've ever done was my first EP. It took like a couple years to finish. It's 4 songs, but we poured our heart and soul into it with Louis Richner, who was my recording engineer and producer and best friend. And the reason that the project exists, because he believed in me and he helped encourage me to write. And so that was big. And so The Art of Letting Go, and I got a couple more new songs coming. And I'm releasing the video for The Art of Letting Go, which is really cool because we did it kind of like in a similar environment, studio setting. And it was just the guitar and the mic, and we tracked it. And we laid it out and we recorded it live. And that's what I wanted to do with that song because it's the most authentic representation of the emotional state that I was in.
Yeah.
When I made it. And it ended up being so beautiful. Ended up being really something,
That's what's up, man.
Yeah, dude. And it's like anytime you get something out that you've created, it's a win. You just put it on your feel good, like, hey, I'm doing this, Like
that is going on. That's the kind of thing that's going on my list for this year.
Yeah.
Like regardless of setbacks of 2020 and all that craziness, this year is gonna be a new kind of creative stampede, create or bust kind of
right
thing.
Yeah, I mean,
don't accept any hurdles.
And when they come, deal with them as they come,
Exactly.
But don't let them slow you down or stop you.
Right.
Or derail you. So what I'm working on is creating a system that is going to help me if I ever get derailed to just get me back on, right? Instead of having to run a mile to get back on the path, you just like a couple steps.
Exactly.
And recognizing. So for me, a lot of that's just been streamlining my workflow and like my studio. And like this setup is great. Like having a camera set up with audio that you can easily plug into and do something.
Yeah.
Whether it's a cover or
something already.
Yeah.
And then when I need to jump on and track vocals, I stick it back on here.
Right.
Raise that up system. And just, we're set, ready to go.
Yeah.
Edit, electric, acoustic.
God bless the musicians who are also their own engineers, mastering engineers, mixing engineers, because that takes dedication.
Yeah.
But for me, as the creative kind of personality that I am, if I start hitting like technical roadblocks, like software and plugins, it derails me easily.
Yeah.
And for me, what I need to improve is to gather momentum and small wins, Yeah. And so I'm talking beyond mediocre, I'm talking about the things that I know have held me back. And one of the most beautiful things about being on your journey is you learn what holds you back and being able to find something that will work for you to counteract those things, right? So just setting yourself up for success.
Honestly, I think that's a great closing point.
Yes.
And something to really drive home with regards to the whole reason behind me doing this whole thing and
right.
this idea of pushing beyond mediocre right. in the wake of the kind of stuff that just went on in 2020, emotionally, mentally, creatively, all of that, to find a way to create little wins. Find a way to create small wins for yourself. And that ultimately, when you look back over time, it adds up to winning,
It's not in the big things, it's in the little things. The little things are everything. One of my mentors, Jesse Itzler, says that the little things are everything. Yeah. So don't save 12 songs to release an album when you could do an EP And don't save 4 songs for an EP when you could do a single.
Exactly.
You know, like let yourself gather your wins.
Yes.
And when you've released 4 singles, 5 singles, then you can think about doing an EP or doing an album. Or when you've done a couple videos online, then you can work on something a little more in depth.
Yeah.
But give yourself the momentum that is going to give you the confidence to follow through on something that might have a little bit more like weight behind it. Something that might be a little bit harder to carry through start to finish. Something that might present more challenges to you.
Yeah, man.
But like that's why I love this here. Thank you for inviting me, because for
Absolutely.
me, this is momentum. This is an opportunity to do what I love, to talk about what I love, and for me to feel good about it when I leave it. I'll be like, yeah, we're walking in the direction of our dreams and making the best of the gifts that we have. And as your lovely sign says, history has its eyes on you.
Let's do some music.
Awesome.
Let's do it.
Girl, I'm in love with you. This ain't the honeymoon, past the infatuation phase. We're right in the thick of love. At times we get sick of love. Seems like we argue every day. I know I misbehaved and you've made your mistakes. We both still got room left to grow. And though love sometimes hurts, I still put you first. We'll make this thing work, but I think we should take it slow, 'cause we're ordinary people. We don't know which way to go, 'cause we're ordinary people. Maybe we should take it slow, take it slow. This time we'll take it slow, take it slow. Whoa. This time we'll take it slow.
Come on, bro.
This ain't a movie, no fairy tale conclusion, y'all. It's more confusing every day. Oh, like sometimes it's heaven sent, then we head straight back to hell again. Kiss and we make up all the way. I hang up, you call, we rise and we fall, and we feel just like walking away. As our love advances, we'll take second chances. No, it's not a fantasy, I still want you to stay. We're just ordinary people.
Yep.
We don't know which way to go, 'cause we're ordinary people. Maybe we should take it slow, take it slow. This time we'll take it slow,
Take it slow.
Maybe we'll live and learn. Maybe we'll crash and burn. Maybe you'll stay. Maybe you'll leave. Maybe you'll return.
Maybe we'll never fight. Maybe we won't survive. Maybe we'll grow, we'll never know. Baby, you and I, we're ordinary people.
Which way we going?
We don't know which way to go. Yes.
So we're all go. 'Cause we're ordinary people, yeah. Maybe we should take it slow. Take it slow. Whoa. Well, this time we'll take it slow. Take it slow. Oh, this time we'll take it slow. Take it slow. Slow. This time we'll take it slow. Take it slow. This time we'll take super, super slow. Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Dude.
That was fantastic, David Posso. You'll see him.
Mr. Solomon Jaye. Appreciate you, bro.
All right.
Hey, beyond mediocre, here we go.
Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. If you want to hear more stories like these, please click subscribe to stay in the loop, and make sure to check out David at davidpossomusic.com. DavidPosso.com. Also check him out on Instagram at David Posso Music.